I can't really be a lawyer and a criminal, can I? I want to win. But do I want to win like this? I'm of two minds here.
So it's a coin flip.
Johnny Vitti was murdered tonight. The Falcone crime family has to be taken down.
There's only room for one homicidal maniac in this town.
Why are you running?
You could use a little fun.
I thought you didn't hurt people!
You thought wrong.
You still haven't figured out who killed Johnny Vitti?
A killer who only works on holidays. There's lots of crazy out there.
Once I take him out, things are gonna be different. We can start a family.
The city is fallen, Alfred.
And we must endeavor to lift it up again. Who is Holiday?
And who's next?
Welcome back, everyone. This is going to be my Batman Long Halloween trailer video, Jensen Ackles Batman. Bet you did not see that coming. Jensen Ackles finally playing a version of the Batman. So a whole bunch of Easter eggs here. Long Halloween, obviously one of the best Batman stories from the last 25, 30 years almost. But if you're brand new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to get all the videos. There's so much Batman stuff happening in the next couple of years between this Batman movie. There's two parts to it. This is just part one. Part two will be released later this year. We have Ben Affleck's Batman in the Justice League Snyder Cut just a little while ago, and then we have the upcoming Matt Reeves Batman movie with Robert Pattinson's version of the character. Even though that's taking place in an alternate universe from the Justice League Ben Affleck Batman. Most of you probably remember, though, Jensen Ackles actually played Red Hood during the Batman Under the Red Hood movie in the early 2000s.
Listen to me, you drug-peddling scumbags. You 8 are the most prosperous street dealers in Gotham. I'm offering you morons a deal.
I believe that was around the time he was doing Smallville, so that was actually his early start in the DC universe. They actually just released another Jason Todd movie, Under the Red Hood. It was sort of a choose-your-own-adventure movie, and Jensen Ackles did not come back to play Red Hood. So I think this is why, because they already had him doing the voice for Batman during the Long Halloween movie. If you don't remember, a couple years ago too, Stephen Amell and Jensen were both campaigning to get him as the version of Batman inside the Arrowverse. Obviously that didn't pan out. I think mostly because there were so many versions of live-action Batman that they were getting ready for. There was still Ben Affleck Batman in the Justice League Snyder Cut stuff. There was the big transition behind the scenes to Matt Reeves, Robert Pattinson Batman movies, and then they were apparently still trying to get Michael Keaton Batman to come back. So even without that Titans version of Batman, you have 3 live-action versions of Batman flying around. So if you wonder why you haven't seen Batman in a really big way inside the Arrowverse DC TV shows, that's why. Either way, it's a really good time to be a Batman fan, and the reason why they're doing this movie is 2 parts instead of just doing it as a 1-2-hour movie or an hour and a half like the typical animated movie length, is because The Long Halloween is a really big story and they want to do the entire story without having to speedrun everything. That being said though, you can actually tell just from part 1 of this story that they've already cut out some of the Batman villains, although a lot of the key ones are there, so I'll explain some of the minor changes it seems like they've made. And if you guys didn't know, Matt Reeves was actually inspired by portions of The Long Halloween for his new Robert Pattinson Batman movie. Although obviously that's meant to be an original story with some similar elements to The Long Halloween. So they're not doing the exact Long Halloween storyline the way the animated movie is trying to adapt the comic book. But the whole thing with the Long Halloween story is it's basically a murder mystery that takes place during a bunch of different holidays. That's why they call the main villain the Holiday Killer. It's a neo-noir, big whodunit story with Batman basically going around being the world's greatest detective, very big detective story, trying to learn the identity, just going around to all the different members of his rogues gallery of villains, thinking that each one might be responsible. The person you see Batman and Gordon talking to in that prison cell in the trailer, that's Calendar Man. He's being played by David Dastmalchian, who's also in the Suicide Squad movie as Polka Dot Man. Just really big fan of playing obscure characters. Calendar Man is in prison because he's known for committing holiday-themed crimes on holidays. And because in the Long Halloween story, all these different murders are happening on different holidays, they go to him for advice. But the other big thing about The Long Halloween is that it's meant to take place relatively early in his career. So, for instance, Catwoman, big character during this, being played by Naya Rivera. I guess she did the voiceover role for this before she passed away, so may she rest in peace. But at this point in Batman's career, he hasn't learned Catwoman's secret identity, and he's dating Selina Kyle as Bruce Wayne. Selina Kyle also doesn't know that Bruce Wayne is Batman yet. So that kind of gives you an idea for where this takes place in his timeline. But even though you have pretty much every major character like the Joker from his Rogues Gallery, most of the story revolves around the mob in Gotham City between the Maronis and the Falcone crime families. It's also meant to be a bit of an origin story for the Two-Face Harvey Dent character, like him slowly becoming the Two-Face character. That's why you see in the trailer them making all those references to him flipping the coin, trying to make the choice. So the story begins in a very Godfather type of way at a mob wedding. It's Carmine Falcone throwing a wedding for his family, but Bruce Wayne is there with Selina Kyle as his date and his friend Harvey Dent. While he's there, Carmine Falcone is trying to pressure Bruce Wayne to launder his money, his billions of dollars, through the banks that Falcones control. Because Harvey Dent is the district attorney who's going after the mob, the Falcones have him beaten up. Bruce Wayne finds him. Then after the party, as Batman, he develops a plan to take down the Falcones, take control of the banks away from him, with Harvey Dent and Gordon. Harvey Dent is going to use the head of the bank to testify against Falcone and put him behind bars, but the Falcones have the president of the bank killed so that he can't testify against them. Then in retaliation, a mystery killer, the Holiday Killer, winds up killing the Falcone responsible for taking out the president of the bank. The scene where you see Harvey Dent and Batman sitting in front of that giant pile of money and he's talking about being a district attorney, maybe being a criminal, flipping the coin. They find a warehouse where Falcone was forced to stash $20 million. And obviously this is taking place 25 years ago, so you have to imagine it'd probably be like $100 million if the story was written today. And as part of their plan, Batman, Harvey Dent, Gordon's plan to take down the mob, they burn the money. Christopher Nolan actually used some of those story elements from The Long Halloween during the Dark Knight movie, where you have Joker burning pretty much half of the mob's money. But then as the year goes on, throughout the major holidays like Thanksgiving, Valentine's Day, Christmas, all these big holidays, you start to see the Holiday Killer taking out all these different key members of the different crime families as part of Batman's investigation as he's going around. At each of the crime scenes, Holiday just winds up leaving holiday-themed calling cards. Eventually, Holiday's actions lead to an all-out war between the Maronis and the Falcones. Sal Maroni winds up making a deal with Batman, Gordon, and Dent to testify against Falcone and put him away for good. And it's at that courtroom trial where Harvey Dent gets the acid thrown in his face. So he goes to the hospital, but before they can take him to surgery, he winds up escaping into the sewer, stabbing his surgeon. Later in the story, he resurfaces as full-blown Two-Face to go after Falcone, winds up releasing a whole bunch of prisoners from Arkham, causes all this mayhem. So like I said, it seems very similar to some of the plot elements from the Dark Knight movie, using all this Dark Knight footage. Like, which movie are you talking about, Long Halloween or The Dark Knight? Well, obviously you can see how much Christopher Nolan borrowed from The Long Halloween. Joker winds up causing all kinds of mayhem, trying to take out the Holiday Killer himself because he's jealous. He doesn't want the attention taken away from him. He's supposed to be the biggest criminal in the city. But even while you have Two-Face going after Falcone himself, successfully getting revenge, nobody the entire time ever figures out who the Holiday Killer is. It still winds up being this huge mystery right up until the end of the story. I don't want to give away huge spoilers, but the story has been out for like the last 25 years, so most of you probably know what's going on with the Holiday Killer, the big twist behind it. But it is meant to be a big twist reveal at the end of the story, where they don't literally tell you who the killer is, but they give you all the clues, like it's right there on the page, like, oh, it was this person the whole time, the person you least suspect. But what's going to happen is they're releasing part 1 of the movie June 22nd, and then part 2, I believe, is supposed to be released sometime this fall. I think originally what they planned to do, because so much of Matt Reeves' Batman movie has Long Halloween energy in it, even though it's not directly adapting the story, they wanted to release part 2 of the Jensen Ackles Long Halloween movie around the same time they were going to drop the Batman movie in theaters, which was originally going to be in October this year, but then they pushed that to March next year. But because The Long Halloween was an animation movie, they don't have the same issues filming during the virus, so they didn't have to bump that. So I believe both parts will come out this year. And if you didn't see, Matt Reeves actually just posted on his social media accounts a little while ago, he wrapped filming on the Batman movie, so that means we'll probably get a full Batman trailer sometime later this year, maybe around the time they release the Dune movie, which is going to be in October. But if you haven't read the Long Halloween story, I would recommend you check it out at some point, because it is one of the best Batman stories from the last 25 years. What's going to happen next, though, is my Marvel Falcon and Winter Soldier Episode 4 video will post Friday just like normal, and there's a whole bunch of stuff going on this weekend. I'll try to post all those videos as quickly as possible. Just leave all your requests in the comments below. We also have the Mortal Kombat movie coming up in a couple weeks too, so I'll be doing some videos for that pretty soon as well. While you wait for everything, click here for my Justice League Snyder Cut ending and end credit scene video and learn about what's going on with the sequels. And click here for my Marvel Falcon and Winter Soldier Episode 4 video. I'll update the link when I post that new video too. Thank you so much for watching, everyone stay safe, and I'll see you guys tonight.